In a very unexpected turn of events, we are in a marina, in Marina di Teolada in South Sardinia. Our friends on SV Rocket Science very super generously and kindly offered us to go along on their sail from here to Cartagena, which is 500 nautical miles. They're paying for pretty much everything, so thank you so very much, guys. It will be really cool to come and sail with you, and yeah, we're really excited. We've not really sailed on monohulls much, and this one is pretty unique to say the least, so it'll be a really great experience and we'll record it all for you. So yeah, really looking forward to stepping on the boat and get going. It's 8 AM and we are going over with our stuff to SV Rocket Science. So you can stand on this boat, huh?
Yeah. Got a good inch and a half of headroom.
Got to turn. Otherwise, if you just let the clutch go, it'll just go flying, right? There's not enough on there right now that it's really. Well, we're off to Cartagena from Teolada in Sardinia. We have 450 miles to go. We're expecting light winds today, and then hopefully some decent sailing tomorrow until almost to Cartagena. Then the mainland's supposed to be light again. So with any luck, we'll have some pretty good spinnaker sailing. I don't know if the camera can see this, but yeah, here's where we are. That's where we're going. And we're going to kind of aim north toward the Balearics a little bit because the wind's supposed to be westerly, and we want to have a broad reach for the spinnaker run as we get there. So we're kind of doing 2 legs just for sailing strategy. Right now it looks like we've got about 24 hours of really light winds from behind us, so it's mostly just a motoring ride. And hopefully not. Maybe we'll get some sailing a little later with the afternoon breeze, but for right now we just don't have enough wind to really do anything without jibing, and we're sort of on a schedule, so we're using the engine just at the moment. But all's well here.
When do you expect to arrive in Cartagena?
Well, it should be day after tomorrow in the afternoon, hopefully.
I was quite keen to come on this boat to figure out how I like monohulls, but this boat is extremely comfortable, so I don't think it's the real monohull experience. We're barely moving at all, and even when we were heeled over, I think we heeled about 20 degrees when there was a bit of wind. It was just so comfortable. There was no bumping up and down, and I mean the motion is just super gentle. It's really lovely. The crew on board Rocket Science was truly international on this trip, so TJ raised the flag for each person's country on the port spreader. How long have you been living on Rocket Science for?
On this boat since July 2013. And then we had another boat before that, and we lived on board together since, I don't know, from 2007 to 2013.
So you've been cruising around quite a bit?
Yeah, on the first boat together, we were in the Caribbean, and we sailed it down to Colombia and up to Panama and through the Panama Canal, and then to Costa Rica, and from there we had our ship up to the States and had her in Seattle for 2 years. And we got all itchy and sailed her down to Mexico, and eventually sold her and bought Rocket Science in 2013. And we took her from San Francisco to Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, through the Panama Canal, all the way up to Newfoundland, then back down to Florida, then up to Newfoundland again, and then we crossed in 2016 from St. John's, Newfoundland to Ireland, and then we spent the winter 2016 in Leamington in the UK. Then last year we made our way down to Gibraltar and spent the winter there. And now we spent about 5 minutes in the Med. That was enough.
What's your plans?
Right now we're on our way to Cartagena, and we'll leave the boat there and go see the mountains where it's not so bloody hot. And then we're gonna take the boat down to the Canaries mid-September, and I'll spend a few months there while TJ goes back to work, and then we're gonna go home. We're gonna go to the Caribbean, and we haven't quite decided yet how we're gonna get the boat back to Seattle. We'll either sail it up to Florida or Texas and then ship it from there, not ship it, truck it, or we'll sail her, but that would be a pain in the ass.
Something, but I don't actually think it's a fish.
You just use the bigger fish, that's why you don't think there's anything on there.
No, it's a fish. It's a fish.
Oh, it's a fish!
Okay.
Fishy, Baxter!
What is it?
Is it a fishy? Is it a fishy?
Gonna have fun?
Keep the tip up, man.
Keep the tip up.
Keep the
Yeah.
tip up.
All that extra line you let out, eh?
And you gotta spool it a little bit by hand too. You're building up here on one side, so. And if it's not reeling in that well, you can tighten down that star a little bit.
What is he?
Hard to say for sure right now. If we don't want him, can you run down and grab my multi-tool from out of the top drawer? Black one. Want this?
It's a tuna?
Do we want him?
We decided the fish was too small, so we let it go, and the boys entertained themselves with the asymmetrical spinnaker instead.
Actually, leave it off for now. Be more, get it, otherwise just put it on the winch. You're really close now.
How's that?
Yeah, that'll be, yeah, you're there. Okay, coming up. Jenny, go 10 degrees port, please. Do it, Ken. Okay. Eat the pod, we'll see about getting this sailing here.
So we're trying to sail tonight. There's a bit of breeze, and the guys put the cruising chute up, and it's probably the biggest sail Ryan and I have ever seen. It's just so huge.
It's just before 8 PM. We've just had dinner. The sun's a little way from going down, but it's certainly golden hour, so it's quite nice. The wind's picked up a tiny bit, but still not enough really to make much use of the sails in this boat. The engine's still on, and because we're going at sort of 8 knots, the apparent wind speed is really low. I think the true wind's like around 12 knots or something like that. So on Kittiwake we probably have the cruising chute up, and we'd probably be sailing along at 3 knots. But on this boat, motoring at 8. So it's handy because we'll get there much sooner. We're going to go straight to Cartagena by the looks of it. We're about 400 miles away, 380 miles away, something like that. So yeah, got an evening of probably more motoring, but hopefully the wind will pick up because the engine's quite loud, but yeah, it's nice motion on the boat, so hopefully with earplugs you'll be able to sleep.
So it's sunset, and Jenny went to bed. We're gonna have a very relaxed watch system for the night. Basically, whoever's on watch, once they get tired, they wake the next person up, which would be a new thing for us. So it's nice to try different sort of watch systems out, because I don't feel like we've got it perfect yet. So who knows, maybe this one works better. And yeah, we've done about 19 nautical miles in 11 hours today, and it looks like we're going to motor most of the night, but tomorrow we might be able to use the spinnaker, which is exciting. And anyway, we tried out all the different sails today, so we got to see them all.
It's written in the U.S. law that you can't have any stock of an overfish level.
It's midnight. We have started our first watch on rocket science. Ryan and I are both up just because there's so much to learn about this boat, and yeah, TJ explained it all well to us, but we do tend to forget a few details. We're still motoring, doing about 7.5 knots, and it's really lovely out here. It's really warm, and we're trying to learn how to use the radar, which we never used before, but it seems pretty straightforward. I guess the interpretation of what's on the radar will be a little bit more difficult. It's about 2:30 and we just saw 2 squalls on the radar. It's really cool to be able to see them and just be able to kind of avoid them or just get a warning in advance in case we need to drop the sails. They were far enough, both of them, that we felt comfortable leaving the main up, and the one that was closer basically decreased in size and got further and further, so that's great. And there's some really amazing stars out here. We can see the Milky Way quite clearly, and a tiny bit of bioluminescence, a couple of sparkles here and there, not very much, but it's always a plus. We are sailing. It's about 8 AM and we have about 7 knots of apparent wind speed, and we're doing around 7 knots. I find it really crazy, but we'll get used to it. By the time we get used to it, we'll go back to Kittiway and do 3.5, 4 knots most of the time. We've been on the engine most of the night, and it's weird. It felt like being on a ship rather than a boat, because of how stable this boat is. And even now the wind is from the beam, and even though we have about 10 degrees of heeling, it's just dead quiet and flat. It's really great. We are under engine again, but there should be some wind coming soon according to the grid files, so fingers crossed.
Happier to let him go, but my opinion's not the only one that matters. Oh, okay then.
Come now, give me a moment, 'cause you know about the place I'm from. Let me in, let me show it, all the things that we can become.
Kind of
really good day. Managed to get loads of sleep last night, which was really good. The boat's motion's really smooth, and I just yeah, had a really long sleep. Helps that we've got 4 people to share all the watches. And then we were expecting some wind to come around 12, but it didn't really turn up. So we had the engine on for most of the day, but now the wind's turned up and the boat's zooming along, sometimes getting up to near 10 knots, which is really nice. And the sun's about to set, and yeah, hopefully be another really nice night. So we're just south of the Balearic Islands, just south of Mallorca, and this is where we're going. That is Cartagena, which is 216 miles away, with a black boat. We started from Sardinia, so we're over halfway.
Hello, I can't shake the simplest feeling. Beyond go, we stand on the opposite shore. Hello, I reach through mysterious seas. My home, I look for things I don't know. All in there, I stand.
It's 10 AM on day 3. We had a bit of a rough night. We were heeled over most of the night. Baxter felt sick and he was sick all over the cockpit floor. That didn't make me feel super well. But then I had the best sleep I've ever had on passage because this boat is really comfy. And then we got up and now we are able to sail. So I think we're doing 9.5 knots on the beam. So we still have about 120 nautical miles to go, and hopefully we'll get there before tomorrow morning.
Probably put the staysail up at that time, and it's too small once on ahead.
The approach to Cartagena was quite challenging due to the heavy traffic in the shipping lanes and the absolute darkness of the night sky. We made it through okay, landing at 3 AM.
So we're in Cartagena, in the marina. We got here about 3 in the morning last night, and yeah, we just spent the morning cleaning the boat up, and we're going to go take a wander into town, see what it's like, because I think we're leaving tomorrow, so it'd be nice to have a little wander around.
So the sailing that we did with the guys is very, very different from what we usually do. I think the slowest we went was about 7 knots, maybe 6.5 between sail changes, and the fastest was 14 knots the second night. It was really, really kind of ropey, so we didn't even have the camera out to film it, but yeah, it was good enough. And it was quite exciting to go at such speeds, especially for us, because
I think the fastest we've ever been going on Kittiwake was 9.5 knots under, like, surfing down a big wave, so we're used to 4.5 to 6 knots. Yeah, it's really great to experience different boats and different styles of cruising.
Cartagena is a historic city in the southern Spanish region of Murcia. Its defensive port was one of the most important of the Western Mediterranean. The city is rich in landmarks and Roman and Phoenician remains. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up or share it with your friends. If you'd like to help keep these videos coming, you can join our Patreon crew. A small monthly contribution will give you access to Patreon-exclusive content and videos. We've also listed rocket science specs on our page in a free post if you want to know more about this special boat. Join us next time as we go inspect our new to us Tayana 37, an American blue water monohull designed by Bob Perry.